Ladies and gentlemen, there's something sacred about the moment a woman decides to rebuild herself. It's not always a loud declaration. Sometimes it's a whisper in the dark, a silent promise made while wiping away tears. It's in the quiet resolve that says, I will rise from this. Here's a detailed and expanded version of the keynote in alignment with the tone and topic. Brokenness has a way of redefining us. It's often misunderstood, avoided, or even feared. But what if I told you that your brokenness is not your ending? It's the beginning of something divine. It's not the period at the end of your story. It's the comma that sets the stage for what's next. The moment life breaks you apart, it's not to destroy you, but to prepare you for transformation. When a woman finds herself broken, whether through heartbreak, betrayal, failure, or loss, the immediate temptation is to feel defeated. Society often tells us that brokenness is a flaw, something we should hide. We're taught to put on a brave face, to act as though nothing has shattered us. But brokenness isn't something to be ashamed of. It's not the end of your strength. It's the start of your rebuild. In those moments when you feel like you're at your lowest, there's a power within you that begins to stir. It doesn't look like power at first. It looks like tears running down your face at 2 a.m. It looks like sitting in your car, unable to move because you're carrying the weight of so much pain. It looks like praying even when you don't have the words, just hoping that somehow someone is listening. It looks like sitting in your care and entreating. It looks like comforting someone you don't know can step into infinity when all you feel like you are alone. It looks like that power starts small, almost imperceptible, but it's there, waiting for you to claim it. Here's the thing about brokenness. It breaks open parts of you that you didn't even know existed. When you've hit rock bottom, when you've cried all the tears you thought you had, and when you've asked yourself if you'll ever feel whole again, that's when in that raw, vulnerable state, you're stripped of all the masks, all the pretenses, all the things you used to lean on for validation or identity. What's left is your most authentic self. And from that place, something divine begins to form. It's in the stillness of those moments that you start to hear a voice that says, this isn't the end. It's not loud or dramatic, it's a whisper, a quiet but unshakable truth. That voice reminds you that even in your brokenness, you are worthy. It tells you that your cracks aren't something to be hidden, but are the places where the light of your purpose begins to shine through. You see, the divine doesn't waste pain. Every tear, every scar, every moment of despair has a purpose. But you have to make the choice to see it that way. Brokenness can either bury you or plant you. It all depends on how you respond. If you allow yourself to sit in the soil of your pain, to process it, to learn from it, and to grow through it, you'll find that your brokenness was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to strengthen you, to prepare you, to mold you into the version of yourself that can handle what's coming next. Rebuilding yourself after being broken is a lonely journey. Let's be real. It's not easy. It's hard to keep going when the people you thought would stay with you have walked away. It's hard to trust again when the ones you trusted the most were the ones who caused the cracks. And it's hard to believe in yourself when everything around you seems to be falling apart. But let me remind you of this. Your brokenness is not evidence of your weakness. It's proof of your resilience. The fact that you're still standing, still breathing, still trying, that is strength in its purest form. When a strong woman decides to rebuild herself, she doesn't wait for permission. She doesn't wait for someone to come and fix her. She doesn't wait for the applause or validation of others. She looks at her broken pieces and decides to make something beautiful out of them. She learns to love herself, not despite the cracks, but because of them. What makes her unique but make her powerful. And here's the beauty of it. As you rebuild, you begin to see yourself differently. You start to recognize the divine fingerprints all over your life. You realize that even when you felt abandoned, you were never truly alone. The strength you've built in silence, the lessons you've learned in the dark, the courage you found in your tears, they've all been preparing you for this moment. You start to see your brokenness not as a weakness, but as the birthplace of your strength. The beauty of you is not your only name. The beauty of you is not your only name. Every piece of you that you thought was ruined becomes a part of the masterpiece you're creating. The pain you've endured becomes the foundation for your growth. The lessons you've learned through hardship become the wisdom you carry with you. And the strength you found in rebuilding yourself becomes the light that others will one day look to for hope. When you decide to rebuild yourself, you're not just putting the pieces back together the way they were before. You're creating something entirely new. You're becoming a version of yourself that you've never seen before, a version that's stronger, wiser, and more capable than you ever imagined. You're stepping into a purpose that's bigger than you, a purpose that requires every ounce of strength, resilience, and courage that your journey has built in you. You may not see it now, but there's something divine in your brokenness. It's a calling, a challenge, and an opportunity all wrapped in one. It's the universe's way of saying you were made for more. And as you take each step forward, as you rebuild piece by piece, you're not just proving it to the world, you're proving it to yourself. The woman who feels broken, you are not finished. You are just beginning. And this brokenness, it's not the end. It's the divine spark that will ignite your transformation. Keep going, keep building, keep believing. Something beautiful is being created within you, and the world has yet to see the fullness of what you're becoming. Rebuilding is one of the most challenging things a woman can face, especially when she's walking that road alone. It's not glamorous. It's not the polished and perfected image that people like to celebrate. It's raw, uncomfortable, and sometimes even painful. But in the middle of that mess, right there in the chaos, is where strength is born. It's in the tears you cry when no one's watching. It's in the moments when you doubt whether you can take one more step, but somehow you find a way to keep going. When life breaks you, the first instinct is often to retreat, to hide the pain from others and even from yourself. You might feel like you're in the middle of a storm, surrounded by pieces of the life you once knew. Everything feels scattered, disorganized, and uncertain. It's a mess, an emotional, mental, and even physical mess. But that mess isn't something to fear. It's the necessary ground where transformation begins. You can't rebuild something without first clearing out what's no longer serving you. And that process can feel like chaos before clarity. Rebuilding is messy because it forces you to confront the parts of yourself that you've been avoiding. It shines a light on the wounds you thought you could ignore, the fears you thought you could bury, and the doubts you thought you'd outrun. It requires honesty, the kind of honesty that strips away the masks and pretenses you've been wearing. You have to look in the mirror and face the truth about where you are, even if it's not where you thought you'd be. And that's not easy. It takes courage to sit in that discomfort, to acknowledge the mess, and to commit to the hard work of rebuilding. What makes it even harder is the loneliness. Rebuilding yourself often means walking a path that others can't understand. You'll find that some people, even those closest to you, won't be able to join you on this journey. They may not understand your pain, your process, or your need for change. And that can feel isolating. There will be moments when you long for someone to hold your hand, to reassure you that you're doing the right thing. But sometimes the strongest growth happens in solitude. When there's no one else to lean on, you discover just how much strength you carry within yourself. The loneliness isn't just about the absence of others, it's also about the distance you have to create from your old self. Rebuilding requires letting go of the things people, and habits that no longer align with who you're becoming, that can feel like a loss. And grieving that loss is part of the process. But in that solitude, you also find clarity. You start to see yourself more clearly, to understand your worth, and to realize that you're capable of more than you ever imagined. And let's not forget how hard rebuilding is. It's not a straight path. It's filled with setbacks, doubts, and moments of exhaustion. Some days it feels like you're making progress, and then out of nowhere, it feels like you're right back where you started. That's the nature of growth. It's not linear. But every step, even the ones that feel small or insignificant, is moving you forward. Every stumble teaches you something. Every moment of struggle is building a resilience within you that you didn't even know you had. Strength doesn't come from avoiding challenges. It comes from facing them head on. It's born in the moments when you feel like giving up, but choose to keep going anyway. It's born in the nights when you cry yourself to sleep and wake up the next morning determined to try again. It's born in the decisions you make to prioritize your healing, even when it's hard, even when it's painful, and even when it feels like no one else understands. Rebuilding forces you to redefine what strength looks like. It's not always about being tough or pretending you have it all together. Sometimes strength is found in vulnerability. It's in admitting that you're struggling. It's in asking for help when you need it. It's in giving yourself grace when you fall short. Rebuilding isn't about perfection. It's about progress. It's about taking one step at a time, even when the path ahead feels uncertain. And through all the messiness, the loneliness, and the hard work, something incredible begins to happen. You start to see glimpses of the woman you're becoming. You notice how much stronger you feel, not just physically or mentally, but emotionally and spiritually. You begin to trust yourself again. You start to believe in your ability to create a life that aligns with your true self. And that strength, born out of the mess, becomes the foundation for everything you're building. Rebuilding is a process that tests you in every way. It stretches you, challenges you, and sometimes even breaks you further. But it also shapes you into someone you never thought you could be. It's in the mess that you find your resilience. It's in the loneliness that you find your independence. And it's in the hard work that you find your strength. So while rebuilding may not be easy or pretty, it's where transformation happens. It's where the strong woman within you is born. Not from a place of perfection, but from a place of perseverance. Every tear, every struggle, every lonely moment is a step toward the powerful, unstoppable version of yourself that you're creating. There's a profound truth that every woman rebuilding herself needs to hear. You carry the power to rise within you, regardless of who walks away. It doesn't matter who didn't see your worth. It doesn't matter who left when you needed them the most. And it certainly doesn't matter who doubted your ability to overcome. The power to rise isn't something external. It's something that has always been within you. But sometimes it takes losing people, losing situations, and even losing yourself to rediscover that strength. When people walk away, it's easy to feel like their absence is a reflection of your inadequacy. You might start questioning what you did wrong, what you could have done differently, or why you weren't enough for them to stay. That kind of self-doubt can be paralyzing. But it's also a lie. The truth is, other people's decisions aren't about your worth. Their inability to stay doesn't diminish your value. In fact, sometimes their departure is the very thing that creates space for you to grow into the woman you were always meant to be. It's in the absence of others that you begin to hear your own voice again. When the noise of external opinions and expectations fades, you start to connect with the woman who has been waiting within you all along. It's not an easy process. In fact, it can be painful to sit in the quiet and face yourself without distractions. But it's in that stillness that you begin to recognize your own power.